Welcome along to this edition of The Final Whistle on LairMedia.tv, and our usual email pertains to this. It's info@LairMedia.tv, and thanks to all the people who've come to look at our podcasts. Now they're after being shared. I'm not au fait with all of this. There's other people doing this on my behalf. I'm no fogey, but it's shared now on 11 new platforms, so we'll get the figures at the end of the week. Some of them are shared audio platforms as opposed to visual, but you get my drift.
Do we get syndicate fees or what, do we?
We didn't see any.
We're the stars. This is like that, dancing on the airwaves.
By the way, we're encouraging everybody who's on to try and get our our subscriptions up to 1,000 from 580. So get up 1,000, you get monetized, and then there'll be advertising, hopefully accruing down the line. And we're in talks with a new marketing person today, and he seems interested. So he might be able to generate some more interest in the show and in all our shows. Anyway, good evening, Anna Moore.
Good evening, Pat.
Good evening, Joe Waters.
Good evening, Pat.
Good evening, Chris Price.
Good evening, Pat.
Good evening, Martin Waters, and welcome all of you, lads.
Good evening, Pat.
And lady.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank
now,
you.
we usually start off with soccer and across the pond, and isn't there always something every week? Is there always some surprise or two thrown up, you know? And the surprise last week was Man United won. And Arsenal, Burnley, Crystal Palace, West Ham, Chelsea, and Man United were the winners of the Premiership. And now, Chris, I'll go to you first on that because, I mean, you needed a lift from last week. What did you think? Obviously, we won't talk about consistency, it's different, but we talk about last week, just gone, their performance, the teamwork. Did you see the match?
I saw bits of it, you know, to be honest with you. I mean, you know, I was actually watching New Zealand. My main intention was watching New Zealand on Saturday. But I watched bits of it. Look, football fans nowadays are extremely fickle. They're up and down like a yo-yo. They're all over the place. I mean, one day they're looking for the manager to be sacked, and the next day they're going to win the championship. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, you just look at this week. Liverpool won 5-0. Yet Brighton, now my young lad is a fervent Liverpool supporter, and he says Brighton were the better team. You look at Man City, getting beaten 2-0 by Crystal Palace. You know, while the Premier League is the most competitive because they all get the same amount of television rights, unlike other countries. So every team has a chance and opportunity to develop their squads, unless of course you're Norwich, who have taken the decision not to. So every dog will have its day. Let's be honest about it. But I would read absolutely nothing into Man United beating an awful Spurs team. Now, we said that Man United players down tools the week previously. I'll be honest with you, it looked like Spurs players met in the car park for the very first time last Saturday. They are a shambles of a club. And the joke over the weekend was that the match was called El Sacico because whoever was going to lose, their manager was going to get the bullet. And that's been proven right. I mean, this to me is a decision that it's not just of getting. I mean, I feel sorry for Sanchez because he wasn't the first choice. And if someone's going to wave a check of $8 million a year in front of you, you'd be daft not to take it. And this is what we've said about football. And I mean, and when you look at what happened today, it just proves how endemic the greed in football is at this moment. Last week, Solskjaer wasn't even sacked. There was talks of it, and Conte was asked his opinion. He says, "Well, if there's a vacancy, I can do a job for Man United." 7 days later, he's getting an 18-month contract with Spurs. So what happened to the Man United project? There was no job. So you had a manager who was basically waiting for another manager to be sacked, whether it was a Spurs manager or a Man United manager, and you know, this is the guy who turned down the Spurs job last summer. So what's changed his mind? 18 months, 12 million quid. That's what's changed his mind.
And Martin, look, I always thought, I'm not saying this after the fact, I never thought that Solskjaer was going to be sacked at all There's going to be no change in that club till the new year, anyway, till the end of the season, Mark. What do you think in Man United?
Yeah, I was like the Liverpool match was a real disappointment. It was a disappointment when you watch the players and you see guys throwing their arms up in the air and blaming each other, and you kind of saw a lack of ambition or a lack of kind of a lack of bite. You know, they're playing their arch rivals. I watched the game against Tottenham, and I know, like, you could say Tottenham or this, that, and the other, but I thought the attitude from United players was much better. They were more kind of, and maybe he's just realised that this trying to play a system that doesn't suit the players that he has. You know, he's got the combined age of the two strikers the weekend is almost 70. You know, so like you got to pick your battles and pick your system and suit the players that you have. And I think Roy Keane was saying it to United, the way they are, that the players that they have, they need to sit in and not play this kind of system that Liverpool play and Chelsea might play, and Man City might play. They have to play a system that suits the type of personnel that they have. Regarding the Tottenham manager, when Mourinho was sacked, Tottenham went away and they sacked him before a cup final.
Shocking.
They sacked him on the week of a cup final.
Shocking.
They bring in a guy with no experience whatsoever to manage the team for that cup final. Then Levy says he wants somebody to come in to manage Spurs and take over Spurs and go back playing the Spurs way, which is attacking football. He appoints a director of football, who then appoints a very pragmatic manager who doesn't play attacking football, doesn't play on the front foot, so it's a total contradiction. So, like, I don't think Nuno had any chance at Tottenham. It was never going to succeed, and 10 games in, he's gone. So, like Tottenham, they are a club that really need to have a good hard look at themselves. Conte may solve the problem, but when you look on the pitch and you see the performances from their so-called star players, you'd wonder, are some guys already thinking of a way out in January?
And Anna, your beloved Pool. By the way, Anna, one consolation for you for Liverpool, they didn't lose, and they're actually now, as we speak, the only unbeaten team in the Premiership.
That's right. I didn't see it, Pat, because, as I said, I was judging from 11 in the morning till 7 at night, Saturday, Sunday. So I saw no soccer this weekend, and I was disappointed when I saw 2-2 with Brighton. And this is what sometimes happens to Liverpool. They have no trouble beating the bigger teams, but the lesser teams, they're the people that they seem to have the trouble beating, But again, they weren't beaten, and they're still there. I do think, and I said it to you in the beginning, I really think Chelsea are the team to beat this year. I really do. I'm still happy enough with Liverpool. They have the strikers. I'm worried at the moment with the midfield because we have a lot of injuries at midfield, So maybe if we got our midfield back, or get someone in there, we might. And we'll be grand. We'll be grand.
And Joe, you'll never walk. Did you get to see much soccer over the weekend, Joe?
I did. I just watched. Actually, I watched some of the games this morning. I saw the goals and I saw some of the games this morning. Liverpool were actually really lucky to draw the game at the weekend. Brighton had one brought back for offside, which was only just. And Brighton really, in the second half, played them off the pitch. Liverpool hardly had a kick in the second half. And I looked at Liverpool's bench. There was an awful lot of young guys on that bench. And then they had Jones playing, and so what we were talking about last week about their depth in the squad seems to be something right now that is not. Keita went off again yesterday. It seems like he has the same injury, but they're unbeaten, so that was good. I mean, Man United are going to beat. Let's be honest, Spurs have been an absolute mess since Pochettino. After they lost in the Champions League final, the whole thing started going downhill, and they really have been like running in place really for a couple of years. Mourinho tried to come in and do it with a stick, and that didn't work for them. And then you get Nuno coming in, and I think, like to Chris's point there, the reason they sacked Mourinho is that Mourinho has won the League Cup, I think, more times than any other manager. He's put a huge emphasis on that because he likes to win trophies. And I think that if they'd left him in place for that cup final and he'd won it, they wouldn't have been able to get rid of him. So they had to pull the trigger beforehand. That's my opinion of it. We're talking, Conte. I don't know what kind of job Conte is going to do here, because Conte he's his own man and he wants to spend money, and that's how he does things. He spends and he brings people in, and they don't seem to want to do that unless they're going to offload Harry Kane at Christmas in the next window, and then use that money to build a new squad. But they did that with Gareth Bale as well. And the last guy that came in as part of that group just left a few weeks ago, and none of them were a success. So Spurs to me.
But Joe, you're going to have to ask yourself. I mean, Levy is a chairman who basically is like a manager in waiting. If you ask me, he wants to know everything that goes on in our club, and I'd be stunned if Conte actually takes the job. Maybe he will. Maybe I'm so out of touch.
Yeah.
Because my feeling is that, I mean, he basically, when he was Chelsea manager, he undermined Abramovich and the Chelsea board so much that they just sacked him. Now I can't see Daniel Levy, allowing that to go any more than 3 weeks. And that's the thing. I mean, is Levy has made so many bizarre decisions since the 2018 to 2019 Champions League final that you just wonder what's going on, because they want to play, as you said, you want to play the Spurs way, then they bring in a very conservative coach. Now they're going back to a man that didn't want the job in the summertime. And now they can't, if he's only there for 18 months, there's no way in the world he's going to be given a transfer with budget, because he's not going to be there.
No, you're right.
But Chris, do you not feel maybe that if he's going to take this job, that he'll make stipulations that he'll be given so much for the window in January?
No, because every soccer manager knows that it takes about a year for new recruits to bed into a new system. Now, it's laughable if Daniel Levy is going to turn around to Antonio Conte and says, "Prove yourself in 18 months." He's going to say,
"Yeah, but hold
go
on.
Do one. Go do one."
That manager, Chris, that's gone. He was only given 10 weeks.
Yeah, but there's a massive difference between Conte and there's a massive difference between Sanchez, because Conte has won leagues. There's a massive difference here. Conte was the manager they really, really wanted, but he was given no transfer budget, so he walked. Right?
You have to have the players to win these leagues.
But they don't have the players. But the problem is that Spurs are not a buying club. Spurs have always been not a buying club because, I'm choosing my words carefully here. They've just not been a buying club. It's as simple as that. Now, for Spurs to go around and now spend, which probably would mean about 250 million in the next two transfer windows, you need to pass the smelling salts around the boardroom for that to go ahead. It's as simple as that. I mean, you're basically going from one philosophy, throwing that in the bin, and then saying, right, we're going to write the check, we're going to bring the checkbook out. Spurs don't do that. But the point I'm making is the most baffling thing is that who does Daniel Levy think he is if he's going to tell a coach like Antonio Conte, you need to prove yourself in 18 months?
The manager of, in my opinion, the manager of the Premiership, in my book, up to now, has been David Moyes. Don't talk about him, about anything. David Moyes. West Ham now are joint third or in fourth place if you like on goal difference.
But if you look at the points table, say from January this year to now, I think they're ranked in second behind Chelsea.
Yeah.
So that's how good of a job he's done since January. When he came in 2019, I think it was around December 2019, West Ham were in 17th place in the Premier Division. They were one off relegation zone. So he's done a remarkable job with, like, there hasn't been a whole lot of change there in personnel. He did mention that the 2 Czech players that he signed made a huge difference when they came in around the mindset of the players.
Yeah.
They were the first 2 players that he had with the club that would stay back after training and stay for like an hour and a half, practicing other things outside of the sessions. It kind of reminded me of when Cantona came to United. He was the guy that was doing things before sessions or after sessions. Schmeichel was the same when he came to United. He insisted on training with the first team outfield players and not training with the goalkeepers. So he wouldn't train with Jim Leighton, and he wouldn't train with Les Seeley, I think it was. He wanted to train with the players, the outfield players, and then do his goalkeeping session. So when you bring in guys like this, they set a mentality and a focus within the dressing room. So Moyes has been very clever, and his backroom team are all former managers. So they've all managed clubs in some shape or form in different countries, in lower leagues. He's got Kevin Nolan. I think he was with Notts County or something like that. He's got a couple of other guys in there that have all managerial experience.
Huh? What you say, Joe?
Yeah, he's got Stuart Pearce there as well. He's got Alan Irving there.
Yeah.
He really, like I've talked about him enough times. I thought that it was a disgrace what United did to him, and he's proven the value. I mean, David Moyes was manager of the year 3 times, I think, while he was at Everton.
Yes.
That's the kind of a guy that you have, and because the United players didn't buy into him straight away.
Yeah.
They used to deride the coaching staff. What they would say would be, "Are Everton in today?" That's how they addressed the coaches, asking if they were going to be there today, and they had no respect for them. And I don't know why that was, but it happened. And I'm really glad that he's doing well. He's doing such a good job. But but I'll tell you the guy that Tottenham should be looking at here. And when you talk about, Chris, we talked about, and Martin talked about playing the Tottenham way, the Spurs way. Well, Antonio Conte is not going to play the Spurs way. I mean, he doesn't play that way. I mean, he plays a 3-4-3. Not a great deal of the push and run stuff that Tottenham like to do, and like they did with Pochettino. But the guy that is doing a great job with it is at Brighton, Graham Potter.
Yeah.
And they play fantastic football. I mean, they knock the ball around well, and his philosophy would be ideally suited to a club like Tottenham. He believes in younger players, giving them a chance.
Eddie Howe is still without a job, isn't it?
He won't get one either.
And wasn't I'm not sure on this. Was Brendan Rodgers mentioned the last time Tottenham were looking? As well. He was seemingly in there, but
well, okay. Eddie Howe won't get another job, probably because, well, he'd probably get a job, but he won't get a high profile job because he stayed too long at Bournemouth, probably, and there was issues over him not taking the Celtic job. I think it was because Celtic refused to allow him to bring his own team. That's what I believe is the case. The other name you mentioned there, Graham Potter. Good manager. Brendan Rodgers. You know what? No. Brendan Rodgers plays good football. Fine. But Brendan Rodgers is a pragmatist as well. That defense comes first. I mean, I remember when I was living in North London when I was a kid, Spurs would rather lose 5-4 than win 1-0. And that's the way they always see football. The first thing a coach is going to do when he comes into Spurs is he's going to sort out the defense. That's the problem. And if Spurs don't like it, then you're going to see another manager go, because I can't. And Antonio Conte is an Italian, and I can't remember the last Italian that played attacking football.
Before we leave soccer for time being. We have a few more things to cover, but before we leave it, ladies, you've all tuned into Sky Sports, no doubt. I'm not a big fan of Sky Sports. That's only me personally. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them. But Jeff Stelling is leaving the Saturday. Now, to me, one of the main reasons, I'm not saying this after the fact, I'd say it before. I like him. I always liked him. I liked his attitude. I liked his rapport with people. I think he was fantastic myself for that program. I don't know who they're going to get to fill his shoes. He's 66 years of age. He's still only a young lad. But I think, there comes a time when you're there a long time. Martin, what do you think? Will he be missed? Will you miss him?
Yeah, I wouldn't tune into it that often now, but like when I did tune in, it is entertaining. I never thought I'd tune into a program where you actually don't see the games, and it's entertaining. I think it kind of lost some of its entertainment value when they moved on. A couple of the guys that were the real characters, like they moved on. They moved on Charlie Nicholas. They moved on Phil Thompson. Matt Letitia, they all had a good rapport.
But my young lad now, well, he's not young, Evan and all his age group are big. They all seem to be watching BT Sport. I haven't seen it. I've never seen it. I don't know what kind of a panel they have on Saturday, but all that younger crowd seem to be BT Sport all the time. I don't know. Maybe it is lost. Anna, do you remember Jeff Spelling? You remember him on Saturday Sport?
Like I'd be like Martin now. We have Sky Sports, we have BT Sports, we have all the sports channels. But the thing about it is that most times when I go into these, I just go in for the games, or the boxing or whatever is on. These are the things that I have these things in. And you're talking the kids being involved in BT Sports, but that's because most of the soccer and everything are on BT Sports.
Yes.
Yes.
And Joe,
that's why.
Do you get to see Sky Sports over there, Joe?
We get some of it. It's not as big here. We've got they're carrying games like on Peacock, which is I think CBS. They're carrying games on Paramount. So we get more of that. We get what is it? We get the Premier League games. That's on, what is it? Oh, NBC Sports Network. We get the Premier Leagues on. So I see Sky a little bit in the mornings, on a Monday morning when they do highlights.
Yeah.
But I've only ever seen Jeff Stelling on Ted Lasso. He does his little bit on that. So I'm not really that familiar with what he did. I knew the other guys, the likes of Phil and Charlie and Matt Letitia. I knew those guys, but
some of them are with BT. The final whistle is the program. Email info@media.tv and tell all your friends about us. In the boxing, Anna, there last week we were saying that Kelvin Cassidy during the week had our first win in the World Boxing Champs. Where are they on? In Belgrade, is it?
No, they're on in Serbia.
Serbia, sorry.
Yeah.
Serbia.
So Keelan would have been our last boxer. Our other 6 boxers were beaten. Their young team, they didn't want to send them, but I thought it was right to send them. Every one of them equipped themselves properly. I thought Adam Hession from Monavea in Galway was very, very unlucky not to get his decision. We did put in a protest, and the protest was thrown out. But we did, our president, Dominic O'Rourke, that's over there, they felt strongly enough to put in the protest. You have to pay when you put in these protests, but he didn't get it anyway. But I thought he won the first and the last round, but most of us thought that. But he didn't get the decision. He was boxing a Russian. If you're boxing a Russian and you're in those kind of countries, lads, it is what it is. And
you have to knock him out. As my dad used to say, you have to at least break his ankle.
Yeah. But as I said, Keelan Cassidy has been around. I know him since he was a kid. He's been messed around by high performance. He was one of the ones that just stayed there, and he just fought and didn't give up. And I'm so thrilled for him. He's with
light heavyweight, isn't it? Light heavyweight.
He's 80 kilos. He's
24 years of age.
Saviour's Crystal in Waterford, and he was their first elite champion in our last that ever won. They never an elite champion, and now today, just for I come on here, he won his way through to the quarterfinals. And I'm so thrilled for him because he never gave up.
Who did he beat?
Pakistani. Yeah.
So he's into the quarterfinals. When is that fight on then?
I'm not sure. I'll have to go and look at the programs later. It won't be tomorrow. I'd say tomorrow is Tuesday. Maybe Wednesday. Maybe Wednesday.
So Keelan Cassidy, one more fight. You have $25,000 and a bronze medal.
Exactly. And if you know the kind this young fella is, the 25,000 will be good for him, but it's that medal. Because if he gets a medal at a World Championships, then with his elite champion, being elite champion as well, he's now then in January in line for a grant.
Excellent.
That's the only way boxers get a grant. I've seen boxers go into high performance and say, look, I can't stay here if you're not going to get me money. But there are protocols. You have to win a medal at a major championship. You have to win an elite title. And if he can do that, he will get a grant. If he doesn't, he won't get a grant.
And to allow him, of course, Anna, there's only a short term now this time. We have a year less to the cycle of the Olympics, so to allow those people to go full time.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, now.
Well, I don't know whether he would. I know he was serving. I don't know whether he's finished his time as electrician. I know that.
I didn't check that out, but we're going to move along to rugby union, Chris and lads. You mentioned that their rugby union really, the match against Wales was a nonsense match for the All Blacks, really. You know, they could play with their hands tied behind their back. Did you see that, Chris?
I did. I thought they were unreal. I mean, some of the handling, it was actually like basketball. Some of the tries in the second half. I mean, I know Wales, I felt sorry for them because they played well to a point. They got within 12 points, and then within 10 minutes, they were like 35 points down. They just scored 3 tries in about 5 or 6 minutes.
54,
and I mean,
54-16.
Yeah, but look, New Zealand have beaten Ireland 60-0 and stuff like that. I mean, I remember they beat Ireland when Ireland were played brilliantly in the first half, and then they rolled off, like 7 or 8 tries in the second half. I mean, they can just do that to teams. That's the problem. They just
124-14.
Yeah, there's a story behind that apparently. The story behind that was basically
there's
a story going around. The rumor has it that some of the American players were laughing at the hacker, so they got what the New Zealanders went to town on that. But look, listen, they've beaten. I mean, what happened with Wales could easily happen to Ireland in 2 weeks' time. Or as simple as that. Ireland could find themselves playing well for 50 minutes, and all of a sudden, a couple of changes. See, you have to remember that some of the
sorry for cutting across you. The Irish rugby team is going nowhere with Andy Farrell. Nowhere. People are.
Well, who would you rather have?
Rather have Andy Farrell is nowhere near an international coach.
Who would you rather have? Just give me a solution.
There's a nonsense. A solution was just too late for a solution now.
Well, if you don't want him, it's not too late for a solution. If you don't want him, who do you want in his place?
He should have never got that contract.
That's immaterial.
That's a job for the old boy. This is stupid.
He's not an old boy. And hang on a second, Martin. Please, hang on a second now. You're after saying something now, and you're just after shooting yourself in the foot by saying that. Andy Farrell is by no means. He is not an old boy, and I tell you why. He comes from rugby league background from the Northern England.
I know all about him.
Right, fine. Then he is definitely not old boy Alakadu type. He is a rugby coach, and I think he's a decent rugby coach. Maybe some of the people behind him, like other soccer clubs or whatever, and rugby teams, don't have the best personnel as well. Okay? Maybe he's not allowed to pick his own men. We don't know. Yeah. But I asked you a question, and you couldn't give me an answer. Because teams evolve and coaching setups evolved. There's no point saying to me he should never have got the job. The point of the matter is, who would you rather in his place? You still haven't answered that question.
I think that Ronan O'Gara should have been given a twist. I think there would have been
too young and too inexperienced.
Strong case for Ronan O'Gara. He knows
too young and too inexperienced. He's doing the right thing, going away and getting his experience.
The fact that Ronan O'Gara knows the players, he would come within 100 miles of it. Martin, what do you think?
Well, I'm not sure about who the Ireland manager should be now, because in fairness, Farrell hasn't been in the job that long, so you need to give him time. These guys require time. You know, what's he got? He's got a Six Nations during COVID. Like, you can't judge a guy based on that. There's not even a crowd to watch the games. So I would hold my counsel on
all managers COVID, Martin.
I know, but like nobody really won the Six Nations last year. It was kind of like it was kind of mixed results. It was whatever you're having yourself. So I think he'd be judged more on the upcoming autumn internationals, and also, like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm listening to the media, and all I'm hearing is Johnny Sexton this, Johnny Sexton that. And when are Ireland going to give another out half the opportunity? Johnny Sexton's 36 years old.
Well, Andy Farrell is a coach.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, Pat, is
Andy Farrell is his golden hair boy.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about I'm talking about the media here. I'm talking about the media's reporting. Yeah. It's almost as if they're essentially trying to influence the decision of who the Irish out half is going to be. And it's going now. I'm like, Johnny Sexton's been a fantastic performer for Ireland and a brilliant servant.
Yeah.
But like, there's 4 other guys waiting in the wings to be given their opportunity. Like autumn internationals, what a golden opportunity to give them their opportunity to perform on a big stage. They're playing Japan, they're playing New Zealand, they're playing Argentina. Give these guys a chance to play at the highest level and get them ready for the Six Nations. You cannot go to a World Cup with a 38-year-old out half. I'm sorry.
Japan are playing very good. Japan played a great match against Australia, and Australia have good form recently as well. Have you any interest in this, Joe, this Irish coach, this rugby union?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I follow it. I watch the games. But, again, it all comes down to who is there with the experience to take the job. The guy that maybe, and I don't know what the rest of you think, but Lancaster, wasn't he the England coach there for a while?
Yeah.
Lancaster was, yeah.
Yeah, and he was the one, and Eddie Jones benefited hugely from what Lancaster started. They put all those young guys in at the time Lancaster was playing, and he had a plan for the last World Cup. That's what he was building towards, and the results didn't come for him during that time. So he was elbowed into touch, and they went out and got the hired gun that's Eddie Jones. So there is a guy there that has experience of it that might be able to do the job. But I agree with Martin. We want. It seems to me that whenever we appoint somebody, we need them to hit the ground running, and they need to start bringing results straight away. And that's not realistic for anybody. I mean, the Irish team was, a lot of guys were coming to the end of their time, weren't they? Yeah. So you have a generation that were absolutely fantastic for us, that did brilliantly, and then at the end of it, their legs are starting to go. They've had to do the hard miles all the time, and now it's a transition, and a new guy moves in with it, and it's always like, well, what have you done for me lately? And it's not. It just doesn't work that way. You got to give people time to get their arms around the job and see exactly what they need to do.
Yeah, and Anna, I'm not as being the only lady in the panel, Anna. What I saw over the weekend, I think I'm going to be more interested in the Women's International Rugby Union games now, because it was so refreshing and honest to see rugby played like that. I was looking at the England-New Zealand Women's International, 43-12 to England. You didn't get to see any of that episode.
As I said, I was stuck in arena from Friday until last night judging boxing. But I agree with what Chris said. Over the COVID, we really haven't seen that manager or what he can do. And again, as Joe said, if you're expected to go in and have the team just run out and win, he's got to get to know the players. He's got to know their form, and I do agree again with what you're saying about Johnny Sexton. That's all you're looking at on the paper is Johnny Sexton. Now, you mightn't agree with me here, but when Brian O'Driscoll was playing, and he was a brilliant player, but we had O'Gara and we had O'Connell and those as well. Which all you were listening to was Brian O'Driscoll. So
I know that. That's the
you know
Dublin.
what I mean? It's Dublin 4, lads, or that's what
Andy Farrell has a great goal to achieve in the next World Cup with Ireland, since he's going to be there anyway. There's no choice about that. We have never reached the last 4 of a rugby union World Cup. So would he be the man to do that for us?
Honestly, I don't know, Pat, because the problem that you have is that, and Martin has made, and I think Martin has made the point of the night here about Ireland could be sleepwalking into having a 38-year-old as an out half in the World Cup. And I don't care what anybody says. I know he can get a little bit defensive about it, but Johnny Sexton is really only one concussion away from quitting. He's had so many over the last couple of years that one day, it's not even a bad concussion could do him. And I just found it strange the other day, and my wife actually said it to me. She says, look at this. She says, Johnny Sexton has declared himself fit for the autumn internationals. Since when did the player declare themselves fit and not the coaches declare the players fit?
Or the doctor.
Yeah. And I found that, I mean, so I don't know whether it's a case of the tail wagging the dog here and him saying, I'm playing and that's it.
Well, I hope we're gone away from the idea, and I have a suspicion we're not fully gone away from the idea that we have to pick so many from Connacht, so many from Ulster,
we don't. No. That's gone years ago. That's gone years ago.
4 provinces now. We're a fully professional game now, rugby union in the Republic in Ireland. 32 county, fully professional game. Surely they can get 20-25 players in. And this nonsense about not picking people because they're playing with a French club or a Belgian club or a flipping Russian club. They're all professionals. Pick your best players.
There's a difference. I know the point that you're making, and again, it was Johnny Sexton that benefited.
Somebody else. They made an exception for Johnny Sexton.
Of course, I agree with you.
Dublin.
I agree with you. And Johnny Sexton should not have been allowed that. Okay.
It's a nonsense.
The biggest is, and I think the problem that the biggest problem that that rugby will have in the next 10 years is the decline in children playing sports, in all sports, not just rugby or hurling or Gaelic football, all sports. I mean, anybody, and Anna would know this when it comes to a certain age group, and I would pinpoint the age group between the ages of 15 and 18, that if you haven't got them by then, you've lost them forever. And this is in every single sport. And what's happening is that the lads who would have been playing all sports years ago, I'll give you an example, right? My young lad plays Gaelic football, but he actually doesn't play Gaelic football this year. He plays hurling soccer, right? He's got lads on the teams that are playing soccer, Gaelic, hurling, and rugby. They're only doing one training session. And my brother, who's the Clare Youth soccer manager, they went to play Cork and got beat 6-0. And we were talking the other night, and I said, well, what happened? He says, look, I don't have my players. He says, I've got a player doing hurling training, a player doing soccer training with his club, a player doing Gaelic football training, or a player doing rugby training. I will look lucky if I see them once every 2 months. How can I train an inter-county team when I don't even see my players? Because the same players are playing all sports. Now, that's County Clare. I guarantee you, if you're going into major cities like Limerick, Cork, and Dublin, a soccer player, if he says has notions of going playing hurling or Gaelic football, he says, well, off you go and don't come back. We can't do that because we don't have the playing population.
That's true.
I agree with Chris there, because I know outside in Ennis Boxing Club are only open 2 weeks because of exactly what you said. A lot of their boxers were playing Gaelic and they'll only come in now. And my own lads, they all played soccer, rugby, and they boxed. But we here, my husband, Lord mercy him, when you get, especially in boxing, when you get to the age of 14 or 13, you then have to decide which of them you're going to pick.
Yes.
Because you can't give everything to 3 to 4 sports. At that age, I think it's important for you to pick the sport that you really want to be involved in and to go forward with.
By the way, congratulations to my son. He has a medal now in every league in junior soccer and county players since he started.
Excellent.
He'll be embarrassed hearing this later on, but so what? Well done, Evan. Now, the final whistle is the program on learnmedia.tv. And tell all your friends about us, and we have an email, info@clearmedia.tv. I did not bring the list. I left it in the other room. It's too late now to vote for some of the comments. Damien Duff, remember him playing Joe, Damien Duff?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Damien Duff is in line. He's been offered the job to take over Shelbourne FC. As you know, Shelbourne is one of the oldest clubs in soccer in Ireland. It's been down in the doldrums. It went to a fantastic heights there under that character. Was it Ollie Byrne?
Ollie Byrne, yeah.
Character man, that was Ollie Byrne. And then bang, the whole thing fell down because of money, really, not because of enthusiasm or soccer. Now, Damien Duff has said he didn't really want the job, but he's been prevailed upon over the weekend to change his mind. I think to be a great fit because they're coming up from the first division. They're first division champions this year, and they are automatic promotion to the Premiership. Be tough ask for them, but they're another Dublin club. They should have a good base, a good fan base, and a good support from the financial community. I don't know, Martin, I'm excited about Shelbourne myself coming back up.
Yeah, I used to go to a lot of the League of Ireland games when I was a kid.
Winning the championship. I mean, Shamrock Rovers is a huge tradition in Irish soccer.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and you know, you've Treaty then playing on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So they're in the playoffs playing UCD, with Galway and Bray on the other side. So, like, maybe things are turning around for the League of Ireland, hopefully. Since, you know, it's under new leadership and things like that. So hopefully things will turn for the better. It's good to see. I think it's good to see former players, international players, now managing in League of Ireland, and they're not managing in the UK. You know, Duff is a good catch for Shelbourne. It'll generate great interest within the club. And you know, Shelbourne have actually a big fan base. Well, I lived in Dublin for 10 years, and a lot of the guys I knew from Dublin would have supported Shelbourne, so they were going to those matches against, I think they were playing Deportivo or La Coruña or something in a Champions League game or something like that in Lansdowne Road back then. So they do have a big support there if it's properly encouraged and things like that. And we all know Shamrock Rovers have a big support, so things are looking up.
Yeah, there's some great potential great games now in Dublin with Shelbourne, St. Pat's, Bohemians, Shamrock Rovers. You know, you have 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 7.
And you could have Bray coming up from Wicklow now. You know, I think Treaty, and it's brilliant in their first season to get to the playoffs, but you have the likes of Galway and you have UCD there, that they're the top 2 after Shelbourne, and we say Limerick and Bray have lost to these teams. So, you know, it would be interesting to see. Well, Limerick only lost 2-1 to UCD, above in UCD, you know, so it is feasible. But what you have to ask yourself is, are Treaty ready for the Premiership? I don't think they are at the moment.
For instance, wouldn't it be on a selfish basis if John Caulfield managed to get Galway up to the Premiership and Cork City, which is a huge fan base?
That's so sad, Pat. I find that very sad.
They've seen a soccer
that's so sad.
Cork City, and they were just above the relegation in the first division. To me, it's astonishing when you consider a short couple of years ago, they were hopping around all over Europe playing all these exotic teams.
Go back 5 years. They were winning the Premier League in Ireland, and they were winning the cups, and the following they had was unreal.
Look at Dundalk. They're third from bottom in the Premier Division. You know,
Dundalk, Martin, were the very same. Dundalk were a great team.
Yeah, left. Joe, we have to mention, I didn't want to mention it, but I have to. They did not, I was disappointed myself. I was waiting, and then I saw the 1-0, Notts County and Grimsby, but really, they're still well in it anyway.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're going to have hiccups along the way. You know, you're not going to win. What did they play? 38 or 40 games or something like that. I mean, you're not going to win every one of them. It sounds like it was a good game. They were in it. Notts County are a good team. You know, Notts County have a great tradition, and they're really making a real good stab at getting back into the football league. So it's going to be interesting. You know, I wish sometimes that they'd promote 2 or 3 teams as opposed to just the one.
I was reading that, Joe, and in the National League, they'll have to play 43 or 44 games in their own league for a start. And then if you don't get automatic promotion, you have another 2 to 4 games to play, 48 game and cup. I mean, it's just an astonishing ask you have for teams down there. Like, it's just stunning, you know.
Well, it is, you know, and they don't have the squads. And I think I told you guys a couple of weeks ago, you know, when I was playing at Grimsby and we won the 3rd Division Championship, we played 60 games that year. And I want to say 9 of us played every single game.
Oh,
you know?
God.
Yeah. So that's the way it was done back then. You didn't have deep squads, you know.
No.
We were bringing guys back that were injured one week and they missed the game, and then we brought them back for the game the week after, and then they went back on the injured list again, you know, to try and get fit again. So, I mean, it was difficult, and it's very, very difficult down there. You know,
touch on Derwin Holan. We miss you tonight, Derwin. Hope you're doing well. Hope you have your eye down and continuing to do hard work. Golf. Did you see any golf over the weekend, Chris? Lucas Herbert won the Bermuda.
No, I don't. There's not enough hours in the day, Pat, to watch the amount of sport that you're demanding us to watch.
Seamus Power finished at -10 in the top 10 or top 12. He did very well for Morford. Did you see any golf, Martin, over the weekend?
I just, like as Chris said, like I before I hit the blankets last night, I just turned it over and I just saw that the flags were almost touching the greens. They were bent over so much with the wind.
Yeah.
But it's ironic that the guy that wins the Irish Open wins the Bermuda Classic, and it now means that he's actually eligible to play. He can play in the Masters next year, so it's a big win for him.
It is, it is. Now, also in the NFL, Dallas, New Orleans, for all our American viewers, and Seattle, New England, Denver, Tennessee, and all, they're all winners in the National Football League. But our friend Tom, this is for you, Derwin. We'll be looking at this later. Our friend Tom's team, Tampa Bay, were beaten by New Orleans 36-27. I'm after getting. I like the highlights. You know, obviously I couldn't sit down for 3 hours to watch a game.
There's a great story out of Dallas. Dak Prescott was not able to play yesterday for whatever. I think he was injured, and there's a guy that's been his backup and the backup previously for years and years. And his family goes to every game. They've been to every game to support him, been on the sideline and what have you. And he got the start, and he actually won.
Oh, excellent.
It was his first start in the NFL, and he actually won. So that was a great story out of Dallas. I just heard that on the radio this morning.
Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, some quarterbacks never get a start because of, like, can you imagine being an understudy to Tom Brady or to Dan Marino or to all those guys back? You wouldn't get a look in that, you know.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Well, we're experiencing that now up here. You know, Russell Wilson has been out for the past few weeks, and our backup quarterback has been playing, and you can see, I mean, his lack of game time has affected the way that he plays.
Oh, I don't know.
And they're willing to do that, Joe, are they? You know, instead of maybe like, you know, soccer players like in Liverpool and all those, where they'll go on loan. They're willing to just sit on the sideline, maybe for 30 or 40 games until they get a chance. Yeah,
they are.
I don't know what to set up as in the NFL, but Newcastle West are the Limerick County Senior Football Champions, Martin. Did you see any of that?
No, but I know a few people that went to watch the game. It was a horrendous night. It was last Friday night. So I think so the rain was just biblical. So I think at the first water break it was 1 point each. So it was very, very low scoring, but the conditions were awful. But Newcastle West just seemed to come out on top. They just seemed to have a better, I don't know, but maybe they just had more depth in their panel, and their subs came on and made a huge difference. I think one of them got a goal and a point, and that changed the game. So.
Well, I can tell you this much, Matt, and you talk about a bad match. I was no great player. I was behind as a sub one time in 1968 or 9 for my local club in a junior football county quarter final played in Macroom against Dohenys, Kilshannig versus Dohenys. We were beaten by 2 points to 1. The muck was so thick on the field that the cows wouldn't be able to walk through. But there you go. The first thing I remember when I went up to mark this man, I didn't know who he was. He was actually the famous Eamon Young that played senior football for Cork. And the hello I got was a belt of a fist into the ribs. And that was the hello I got to go up and mark him. He said, go up there now, mark him, you'll be young for him. And it took me, I'd say, the rest of the second half to recover from that belt. The match was over before I knew where I was. But there you go. That's the story. That's the story. But the horrendous conditions Friday night under lights, yeah. So we know what Friday night was like. You know, it was a tough one.
The best story I ever heard. One of the best stories I heard. One of the lads I used to work with. He was playing junior soccer in Limerick years ago. And if you can remember, say around the end of August, when there was an awful lot of matches that were starting like say 6:30, 7 o'clock, because they're trying to fit a few matches in, and it was starting getting dark. And he says one lad, so the team were losing 2-1, and it was like with 15 minutes to go, and it was getting pitch dark, and this lad was chirping in the referee's ear, going, come on ref, blow it up, we can't see it, things, the match has to be cancelled. So the ref was not listening at all. And after about 10 minutes of this, the referee blew the whistle, called him over, and he says, what is wrong with you? He says, it's too dark, I can't see a thing. So he looks and he says, what's that in the sky? He says, that's the moon. How far do you want to see, son?
I think that's on that positive note, that's a good way to answer. From Anna Moore, from Joe Waters, from Chris Price, Martin Morris and myself, lads, till we meet again, good evening and take care, and thank you for your time.
Night, everybody.
Night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Bye now.
Night.